space.
Okay. What'd you say, Brian?
I was about to ask if you had space. I was about to click on it.
I think I do. I gotta. I'll just try to upload it quickly. Good to see everyone. Let's see if anybody else pops in. Let me throw a reminder out there real quick. Okay. Good to see everyone. Okay. So what I think this is our 11th month-long intensive. I don't know, maybe I got that wrong, but it's at least 11. So it's amazing. We've had such a wonderful group. It's so powerful. So anyway, I thank you all for being here and for joining us. This is recorded, so if you don't want to be recorded, please take your camera off. Otherwise, this will be on like a unlisted on YouTube for people to see. Okay. So we're starting the intensive. The theme of the first week is usually the discovering the Tanden, the lower Dantian. I use those interchangeably. And that's a slightly different orientation than the Hara. And so that will be the theme, and I'll send out an email today and just sort of with a couple of blog posts about that. And I think, how can we through the week explore how am I interacting with the Tanden this week throughout the day? How am I'm washing rice. How do I stay working with the Tanden? I'm walking down the street. I'm on the computer, whatever. How do I get curious about working with the Tanden throughout the day? Again, for me, the Tanden was day one in the monastery. The Roshi would just grunt at me, and then day 500, still the Tanden, and all the practice would be in that context. Anyway, so hey, would you guys introduce yourself, Sodo and Jishin? I would love to say hi to you.
Definitely. Hello. Thanks for making this happen. Oh my gosh. I was in a downward spiral over Christmas, and it was like, I need something. Something's got to give. And I'm like, okay, I think I should try this online learning stuff. So I had a good feeling about it, and really glad to be here. I work at a school right now, like a school counselor.
Oh.
And body stuff is like the only useful thing, and it's also really hard to employ. So that I'm glad to be here picking up more tools in that regard. Doing Zen practice is also really important for me, because there's a lot of other things to bash my head against, and Zen feels like I think that might lead somewhere. So we live in Wisconsin near Korenji with Mado Mor Roshi, and so get to see him more often than we would if we were far away, which is great. Gonna go up there this afternoon for the New Year's Eve thing, which is so cool. So just trying to go forward, and I think it's easy to get ahead of myself sometimes. I'm like, oh my God, I admire these teachers so much. I want to have something to share. But I'm like, I gotta do my own homework first. Glad to be here and shedding the extra stuff and getting down to it.
Love it. Love it.
Hi, I'm Jishin. I wanted another practice and like just moving my body, and I feel so locked up. And actually, during the first class, I felt like I was gonna pass out because I just noticed how much tension was in my body. And so I feel like excited to start this and a little scared and ready.
Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah. Okay, so just wonderful welcome. And I think that's a really interesting place to start here. So this is normal that people feel like they might pass out. This is a really normal occurrence. And you know, a couple things may be going on there. I can't quite say, but with this, we want to kind of come to the edge of our place where we don't want to redline our system. So a lot of us kind of live in a somewhat of a fight or flight, and we want to kind of stay on this side of fight or flight. And so that's a creative process of how do I interact with this in a way that, and maybe you don't do it as long, or maybe you maybe you do a couple of sessions in the day, or I do a few, you know, instead of like, I'll do this and I'll blast my system, maybe you come back a little bit, or maybe you don't try quite as hard and my system is able to handle it. It's able to process this. And that barrier, often called like first barrier, that barrier will move. So there will be more space in my system, and then that barrier where I could handle it will start to expand, and it will start to I can kind of work with this. There's space there, and my system is able to process it. And again, like I was saying, our bodies, you know, are stuck places. They're like kinks in the hose, and we're really learning to how do I creatively, in the most often counterintuitive way, let that hose unkink in my system. This is the internal learning that we get through that. It starts to translate across to everything we're doing throughout the day in our lives. And so the internal work, it really bleeds into the other stuff. So welcome. And I think finding that sweet spot and working with it. Oh, okay. But very normal to have nausea or overwhelm, or it's a good sign. It's a good sign. Of course, you know, the medical people will jump on me. So of course we should always, you know, check it out with the doctor, of course. And if we're worried about it, but yeah, it's very normal to have, yeah. Anyone want to comment on that?
Did we say you may actually pass out? Because you may pass out. That's not unheard of.
Yeah, I would do it in a place that you didn't have, you know, sharp objects around you. You know what I mean? Like have some cushions around, you know, and because I personally, of course, in the monastery, I was exhausted, of course, but I would do it in the Shoin garden, and I fell over many times. So it can happen. So I wouldn't have a sharp table behind you, you know, type of thing. And yeah. But I think we're here to, you know, learn to let this deeper process through, and that letting go of where we're holding is a creative, strange cooking process that in the month long or the practices, they're a venue to, okay, I'm gonna see what it's like to let this process cook. And oh, I didn't expect that. It'll often be like that. This started to happen. As I gave myself more to it, deeper stuff started to come out. Anybody else want to check in, or this is what's going on for me, or I have a question about this, or questions are welcome, and they often lead to good discussion.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Well, my main body practice has been Zen and like Rinzai style, jumping into seishins and living at the monastery for a couple months. And so like a really strong kind of gas pedal energy as far as cultivation goes, like just push, 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 hammer, hammer, hammer. And then when things like, this last couple of weeks, I was on a break from my job and everything. And like, I didn't know what to push on, and the wheels just kind of fell off because I didn't have that more aggressive kind of Khufu thing going on. And so I'm wondering, like, is that just a level of relaxation that's necessary to find it within more open space? Or should I just be like cultivating, like I'm still going to wake up at 6 a.m. and run, like it doesn't feel good to have to be going crazy in order to be working on that edge. And it also doesn't translate well into like, sometimes I'll feel like I'm strong on the cushion, but then I get up and things start to change. And it's like, I don't have, outside of that intensity, I can't find it. And I'm really feeling frustrated.
It's a really, really wonderful question. I think it's really important. Does anyone want to comment on that? I have some things to say, but Dozo, please go ahead. Those who know what the heck he's talking about.
I think I understand exactly what you're talking about. I am somebody who's like pursued extreme sports for a long time and just higher certifications and always moving and pushing. What I found with doing Qigong and stopping and doing nothing was probably the most radical thing I've done. And for me personally, I could see when I stopped and stood still what I was running from, or what that intense energy was pushing me away from what I really felt. And so it was just, for me, years of slowing down and just sort of getting comfortable with standing still and doing very little and just connecting to the energy. And even now I find it radical. Like in one of my very early teachings with Corey was just to receive. And I've always been out searching. And so just that flip was transformative in my life. And not to say I'm still not, I still have that gas pedal on, but I'm using it in a way that I think is a little bit healthier, because you can't keep moving at that intensity and that force that you're propelling your life forward with, or at least I can't. But yeah, I would suggest standing still and doing nothing.
I think there's a certain portion of these intensive practices that are just trying to force us into your position. Like, it's not the intensity, it's not the energy, but it's like what you're left with afterwards. I don't know if that's useful at all, but yeah, when I was younger and things were much more intense, maybe they will someday become again, but it was always just that driven, like diving into something, driving forth with something. And that's really shifted into just like, yeah, that relaxation, like letting go of things. Like trying to remember. I'll stop there.
When you said force us into position, do you mean like force us into recognizing our position, or force us into like sitting on the meditation cushion?
Just like, I mean, that just becoming exhausted and giving up on doing something. Like thinking that your practice is about doing something.
Mm.
Just like hitting a point with the intensity where it's weird. You'll meet people in the Zen world that like their breakthrough with their teacher was like giving up, like just like deflating entirely. And that's where like they'll pass their koan, is when they're utterly deflated and defeated in like an egoic sense, I guess. I don't know if that makes any sense, but like something like that.
Thank you.
A lot of times when you're in the, I'll say a little bit about the Zen situation. For one thing, I think when you see people, at first when you go into this environment, you're kind of you're kind of living on this freak out, this kind of red line constantly, and you're just everything's moving so fast. Everyone thinks that Zen is calm, but they don't really know what's going on. But Zen is outwardly seems very intense. Okay. And so you're running around, you're mopping the floor by running with a rag. It's insane. Everything moves fast. Everything is uber intense. You're out raking and everyone's going crazy, it feels like. And then you're there and you see someone who's been there a while, and it's like they're beautiful. They're like floating. And this is something that unfortunately people don't see very often, which is I think really sad, because they don't get to see the people who are really deep, and that they're totally relaxed in this environment of intensity. So they're moving very in harmony with what they're doing, and they're moving faster than everyone, but they're relaxed. They're completely relaxed. So you see, I was doing it wrong. I thought I was supposed to be intensely doing it. And actually, if I see somebody who's really good at it, they're like, oh my God, they're getting everything done, and they're totally in harmony. It feels like the rake is following them around. The leaves are it becomes magic. And really, this is true. And I think also, okay, like in my training, the Roshi is the most intense person I've ever met. Okay. And you go in and you're really intense with him, and he's really intense, and you love it. And it's, you just, and he kind of encourages this intensity, and you say, wow. But the problem is, a lot of us think it's force. We think it's force. And so we can do that force. We can be, I'm going for it. And that's a certain type of energy, and it's very powerful. It's one-pointed, and it helps us kind of come into oneness with what we're doing. And that's really important. And then you're there a while, and then you see, I've hit a wall. I can't go further. I can't go deep with this. I'm running at this red line all the time, and it's helped me, but I can't, something's not right here. And then you see, I'm sitting on the cushion, and I totally lost all of that. And something else started to happen, something deeper. That wasn't about me making something happen. It kind of sneaks in. That snuck in. This deeper thing was happening. I didn't even know it. And I feel different. I don't know what's going on. And over time you see, oh, there's a deeper level of energy that isn't there when I'm forcing or trying to make it happen. And this is a really weird transition for most of us because we're really good at making it happen and we can get kind of far with that, but you can't really deepen that way. So you have to let go to let this bigger energy through. And that's a transition that some people never make. They never make it because they're afraid to let go. And then when they really start to let go, this sublime thing starts to happen. And then you're in this unknown for a while where you're like this moron for a while, where you're letting go of doing everything right. And again, some people don't do that because they just will not be a fool. They can't be a fool. And a lot of us have that in us. But letting go into that, oh, I really don't know what's going on. And yet something really interesting is happening. And that will start to grow and bleed and nourish everything else. And then it will be, wow, I'm moving and I feel really different. Something else is happening, and that will start to work on you. Oh, okay, I'm involved in a process here that I don't understand, but it's really happening. And then you work on that for a long time, and really interesting things start to happen. So that's my suggestion, is that seeing some people who are they're in the midst of this chaos, but they're just so in it. It's so beautiful. That can be very inspiring and in a good teaching. Yeah, letting this, and so maybe this month, to okay, what happens if I'm the same amount of intense, but I'm not forcing? Like I'm still, there's something happening in my system. I'm using all my intensity to feel that, but I'm not using force. So that's a big transition. And that's where the deeper zazen, the deeper energetic stuff starts to really blossom. Do you follow what I'm saying, kind of?
I do, yeah. And it's hard. It's a tough knot, for sure.
And so the intensity we used in the beginning allowed us to a type of pointedness and focus. We needed to learn how to focus. And some people, they don't learn that. And so they can't really ever get into the practice. So you kind of need to be able to feel it and give ourselves to it. And then once that focus is there, then this process starts to happen. And that focus you cultivated then can be used to let this bigger process blossom. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Corey, I'm wondering if you've got any words for, I don't know, any practitioners out there, not me, of course, but who maybe have the opposite problem. Like, yeah, I mean, I think I tend to be a little bit lazy and kind of a daydreamer and just kind of like a little bit fuzzy-headed. And I have a hard time kind of finding my intensity. Like I have the sense that it's in there, that it's in there somewhere, but I just have a tough time connecting with it.
Yeah. I think that's why in the monastery there's a lot of physical work. And I think, like, while we're working, to throw yourself into it like 100%. Like if you're sweeping, try to sweep like 1000%, and when you're sweeping, just sweep. When you're washing the rice, only washing rice, only sweeping. This is the Roshi talking. Only, and just doing that with 100%, that will start to align the system will start to cellularly start to come into oneness, and that will become more and more natural. So whatever that is, trying to throw everything, all the focus into what we're doing. And it's okay to let whatever intensity we have, let that into that. For a lot of us, there's some anger in there, whatever we got in there, we can throw that all into that and let that all, can be a channel to like let all that stuff come through, and all of our demons, we can start to kind of unify that and let it through us, and I think that's why there's physical work in that training, is because it's a way to bring that intensity to one pointedness. And some people are releasers, like they're pressure cookers. Like me, I'm kind of a releaser type. Pressure cooker, release, and then things open up. Other people, they're real open, and then they need to learn to consolidate or bring together into oneness. And okay, I can bring everything. You need to get the motor running, get the jumper cables out, and get, and then they start to cultivate this into oneness. And so they're a little bit different directions, but they're so I think that's why it's good to be able to work with both of them. But yeah, bringing everything into what we're doing, sweeping or whatever it is, cleaning, cleaning is like the good one. Yeah.
And I just, I think maybe this is indicative of the problem. Like, I just, like when I'm doing stuff like that, my default is to just like pop in the headphones and like listen to a podcast while I'm doing it. And I'm like, my mind is just like going all different places. So yeah, thank you.
I hear you.
I feel like with our practice stuff too, it's like Zazen, if you're doing it at home, is easy to get lost in, right? But like ZZ, definitely, you just have to do that. Like if you get lost, it's gonna suck. It's like really like pushing up the time for those two if you really want to get intense.
I think that's a really good point. The ZZ, it cooks quick, and it's like, man, I wish I could escape this, but I can't, and then you're there and all the cells start to kind of have to get together and work together to make it work. Otherwise, yeah, a lot of people when they sit can get good at just falling asleep there. Like, oh, I can space out pretty quick, but with the, and I love the seated position. I think it's like, I don't think either are better, but I think the seated position is very profound. But yeah, people they get really good at basically spacing out when they sit. So it's a good way to balance that with the standing, I think, and doing that, you can't really run away from that. And the one pointedness that starts to come through the ZZ as the body opens up, the one pointedness comes through. That's the very focus that we're talking about. So I think what Brian said is really important. And just for my own process, sorry to babble, for my own process, like when I started this stuff, when I was sitting, I was really, I had a lot of energy and I didn't know how to let it through me. And that was a lot of what my process was. And my name is Corey, means ice. And the Roshi was like, that's crazy. There's nothing cold about you, and so my process was releasing that and letting that through me. But I forgot where I was going. All of a sudden I was with the Roshi. I forgot where I was going with that. I'll let it go. Okay. He's always there bugging me, Anyway, you call me back if wherever we were, but any questions, please.
I feel like sitting with the laziness can be really helpful for me. Like there's usually a lot of information in it. If there's like a resistance aspect to it at all, like even just laying in bed and kind of sitting with like, why don't I want to get out of bed? If I can do it like really gently without like there being any blame in the inquiry, then I can usually get some like pretty good information there. That can be the practice.
Yeah.
I'm kind of in the opposite direction of that too. I feel like waking up is a good practice for something in terms of building some amount of intensity, because Like we have this tendency to like lounge around for a little bit before we get moving, but I think there's a certain sort of energy that comes with just like getting going, like waking up and moving. That I mean that I've noticed in my life. If you're looking for more intensity.
To kind of pull your two comments together there, Brian, I've noticed it's a lot easier for me to get out of bed to stand than to sit. I think it's like a little bit more active where it's like, I don't know, something about, I mean, I get up early anyway, but getting up at like 5:30 or whatever to sit, I feel a lot of resistance to, but it's like, okay, if I'm going to stand first, that feels more doable. And I think, I don't know, maybe has something to do with generating a little more energy before I'm sitting.
Yeah, I remember where I was. Sorry. So when I started my practice, I had a lot of energy, but I didn't know how to let it through me. And so I would sit on the cushion, and sometimes I would really open up. And other times I was just this block of tension that I couldn't work with. You know, the doors just weren't open. And so I had my practices. I had the ZZ I started to learn, and the non-directed. And the ZZ got the momentum in the system happening. Okay, so there was internal movement happening in the system. Okay, and that internal movement would then start to find these places that were blocked, and it would start to engage with those places, and it would start to melt them or start to butt up against them, and then I could feel them. I could say, oh, that's what I'm feeling. I couldn't feel it before. So my internal awareness deepened a little bit more that, oh, I can feel where that is, and I can start to engage. There's a dialogue there. So that both the momentum and the internal language or awareness could then be there to work with it. And then with the non-directed also, then I would take that to the cushion to sit, and that momentum would be there. And then I would sit. And so I didn't have to kind of get the chi moving when I sat. So that was a whole, that really helped me as a person locked up to get this momentum there. And then I could immediately work on it. See you, Joe. Oh, I wanted you to talk. Bye. If you get a chance to hear Joe, we love Joe. He never talks, but then when he does, it's like, oh my God. Remember we wanted to follow him around with the camera. Questions, comments, breakthroughs.
We kind of talked to this, and I think Jane's comment about like making laying in bed when you don't want to get out of bed into a practice. That's something I'm trying to come to, because I have been really on a streak of not wanting to get out of bed. And yeah, it makes like, it's just so miserable to sit there and hate yourself. But I've been falling lately to that floor of like really just desperate, ungrounded, dissatisfied really fast. And then to be like sitting on the cushion trying to like push towards something that's you want to feel big and like it's going to be a generous spirit flowing to others, and then to fall right out to that bottom of just like, ugh, I hate this. And I'm wondering how people deal with the yo-yo, and if it just looks like being more diligent about when you hit that bottom, you bounce back and do a specific practice, or if it looks like gentleness. It's just really, I'm struggling to feel like I need to be at the tip of the spear, and then also just really dropping into some deep stuff that feels old. It feels like, man, I felt like this 2 or 3 years ago. And then I started using my body and I thought I was over it, but now I'm just like, ugh, the big ugh feeling. And I don't know how to bring that in.
It's another great question. Anyone want to jump on that? This is it's a really good topic, I think. The one of the themes will be this receiving, and also the tanden, and you know, I think actually this kind of hyper awareness or hyper we want to be at the tip of the spear, and so we've been diving out at the tip of the spear. We're living at the tip of the spear, you know, and I think when we start to get a sense of the tanden more and more and more, and we start to receive more and more and more, we see that as I hit that rock bottom, maybe I give myself to that fully, and then this is where the big energy kind of comes in, and the tip of the spear fills out. We receive, and then then things fill. So we've been kind of thinking, I've got to go out there and I've got to make it happen, and so our awareness starts to change, and that, oh, when I let go, that's where the real energy is. That's where I'm really helpful. When I deeply relax and let go, that's where the real help is. It's not when I'm out there trying to do it. And so that is like a mind trip, because we've been wanting to be helpful. That's good. But okay, so like, just to say about the Roshi, okay, sorry to talk about the Roshi. I don't know why I keep doing this, but he's like not reaching out. He's not reaching out. It's so weird to be around someone like that, because we're kind of like, what's he doing? What are they doing? You know, we're kind of always reaching out. And when someone's not like that, so weird. It's like they're like this black hole that's expanding, and you're kind of just drawn to them. Like, what is going on there? They're not reaching out, and yet they're like fully expanding through the room. Everyone feels them. So I think maybe we go through this whole process of sitting to let go, and then this bigger process can come through, and our bodies can be vessels for this bigger opening and expansive. That's what we really can offer. And not to mention that hitting rock bottom and being at rock bottom and being okay with that, living at rock bottom, that's people need to be able to be with people who can be at totally rock bottom and be like totally okay. And I think that's a lot of what the practice does too. It makes you okay. I'm not good because this is happening, or I'm not good because these circumstances are this way. I'm just good because I've cooked enough in this that I feel okay. Even at this complete rock bottom, I feel good, and that is a real thing to offer. When someone not moved around by circumstance is like a miracle. So I think these practices, they cellularly teach us that. We can think our way around things, but when you do these practices, if we really get into them, they show the cells that that's what has to happen.
I think we have it saved somewhere, but Dr. Bill, when he's talking about, when he first was getting into being a doctor residency, he hit a point where he just assumed because he was in a shitty position that he was being a terrible doctor. And then his mentor told him, like, no, this is the best I've ever seen you with your patients. Which I thought that was really fascinating too. But honestly, like working in healthcare, you can see that go the entire opposite direction. People do get burned out, right? So that's a really nebulous line.
I had the thought coming up as you were putting out that problem that it occurred to me that maybe there's at the risk of speculating, that there's maybe a part of you that's attaching your self-worth to being at the tip of the spear.
Yeah, it feels like the spear I've recognized as like, oh, the spear is getting me out of this. The spear is getting me out of this shithole. And
Yeah.
then right, but that's I don't think escape is what we're looking for here.
I mean, if that's what gets you on the bus, like, awesome, but right, yeah.
I'm excited, Corey, because we haven't worked together before, and I hear the words you're using, but I know I have to hear them a lot more times before I really catch it. So I'm just like, okay. I'm excited to understand your language more as time goes on, and I like the direction it's pointing, and I know that it's cool when you get a mental like thumbs up, but it's got to be the big dance, and so I'm really grateful to be here. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I would say that there is a everyone has their life and what they have to do, but there is a power in the classes, and there is a power even in those rooms. Like if you can figure out the rooms on Discord, they're really great. But there is a real transmitted thing that happens in the classes, and that just going to them and doing this blue collar work every day, it does transform the system. So putting in the time, and it does change the cells, and that's really what we're looking for, So, yep, I think for everybody, and this goes back to the question I put out about the samadhi aspect. I put that out the other day on the Discord, and for me, the samadhi and the deeper aspects of this is where the real deeper energy is, and that fullness that comes through with the samadhi, that's where a lot of changes happen. A lot of the cellular changes really develop. So putting in the time, you can see it in people's eyes. It's not like an idea. Samadhi's not an idea. You can see samadhi in people when you look at them, and it means that this fullness is fully coming through them, and that's the space where things change, not ideas, but real changes. Anybody else? Questions, comments? Sean, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I went to my other class this morning that is my usual weekly, which is Katona Yoga. If you guys don't know about it, Google it. It's really interesting. I think it's a really cool pairing with this because it's from the kind of a similar tradition, Japanese, but it's very interesting how it fit together. And I've only been, working with this group for like almost 2 weeks now, but like I felt much more connected to that practice this morning because of doing this other thing daily. So that was it was really cool to experience that other practice and how they are like connecting with each other and integrating. Very, very cool. I wish it wasn't at the exact same time as the Saturday morning, but that's okay. I was with you guys in spirit doing my other thing. But it's really cool that it's all about like the magic square and kind of connect. It's all about bodily alignment and, connection and similar like foundational principles, I think. So a little bit more active, but yeah, very cool.
Could you share that a link to that?
I will.
Okay,
Yeah, I will.
Never heard of that. Yeah.
It's really cool.
Cool.
It's just a lot of stretching and bodily alignment, basically. It's not like, very real active, but
Yeah, cool.
very cool. even some deep like internal, like really far deep and like like spinal adjustments happened that I was like, I didn't even know that was there or available, you know. Very,
Cool.
very
Cool.
but I feel great. This is you know, I've known Corey forever. For those that did, we in the same car in driver's training, so we almost killed each other many times. I don't know, we were 15. So I've known Corey a long time, and I've always kind of been, you know, into yoga and meditation, but you know, and followed his blog, and I was like, I just knew this was the season to, you know, do something more about it. So that's why I'm here. If anyone wants old stories on Corey, you know, actually I don't really remember any. It's been so long, 15, like that's so long ago. But yeah, and we were both new in the school, I remember, so we helped each other, like in the being newbies in the school. But it was fun.
It was definitely an embarrassing person. So good at being embarrassed. Good at that.
Where had you moved from, Corey? I couldn't, California, or like, I'm trying to remember where you were before then.
I'm not quite, who's taking off?
From where to Michigan? Yeah, I don't know.
You know what happened? No, I think you got it slightly wrong. I actually left. I moved to Florida.
Oh, you left right after that. That's
I'm
right.
just about to leave. So I moved to Florida with my folks when I was 6.
That's right.
So yeah,
It was only 1 year that you were there. That's right then.
I moved down there. Yep. To
God makes sense.
Inferno down there. Actually, I got a lot of love for Florida. I got Florida, but it's a wild place. Yeah, well, any other questions about the practice or anything else? We got a few more minutes here. Yeah, Dozo, please go ahead.
For our sake as new people, could there be an introduction of everyone and also where people are at in the world? I'm just kind of curious and want to get a feel. I can say we're in Wisconsin near Madison.
Well, Igor had just left. He's in Turkey. And there are a lot of people couldn't make it today, but just to say, lots of people in the UK, Ireland, Barcelona, Norway, Denmark, Brazil, lots of Canadians. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Well, I'm the lone Canadian today. I'm in Toronto, and tomorrow will be my 2-year anniversary with Corey. Started with one big year-long retreat.
I'm on the same island as Corey, so out here in the Pacific Northwest. And I'm new. This is probably 3 months for me that I've been at it. So, yeah.
Go ahead. Like,
I'm from the same place both of them are, but I'm currently in Albuquerque. Brian.
I'm in Dallas, but I spend a lot of time in New York, just not over the holidays. I'm probably like 50-50 between the two places for work. So, but I live in Dallas.
I'm just outside Boston.
I'm Jane. I'm in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Hint is in Maryland. He's probably on baby duty, daughter duty right now. Great. Well, cool. So a little bit about the intensive. So the rooms, again, if you haven't figured them out, they're Discord, it might seem a little bit complex at first, and it can be, but there are voice channels and there are text channels. Okay, and the voice one has a camera option, and there are different ones, practice room or chat room, and you can go into one of those with other people and have a chat. And we do these spontaneous chats on there sometimes about practicing, and those will happen, I think, more over the in the intensive. People will just get in and want to talk about things, and people will start to go through things in the intensive because they'll be practicing more, and these things will start to come up and they'll want to process it and they'll talk about it. And then the practice room, often they're going on, if you get on Discord, you'll see people's names in there, and you can just pop in there and keep yourself muted and turn on your camera. If you don't want to have your camera on, that's okay. You can not have it on. It's really nice to have it if you feel like it, and you really feel kind of supported by the person. And there are times throughout the day which are more popular, like early morning for me. There's a lot of stuff going on while I'm sleeping. A lot of people in the UK and Ireland, they're often up. They're going into a room when I'm going to sleep, etc. But then throughout the day, there'll be people jumping in. So feel free to use those. They're great, and they're a way to kind of keep it going. And there will be enthusiasm for those rooms and sometimes a lot of enthusiasm. So yeah. I do recommend today we have the 1 p.m. my time non-directed class, and I would recommend spending longer periods in the non-directed. It might be a little bit weird at first, but I do recommend taking that time when you don't really know, your foot's not on the gas pedal, your foot's not on the brake, and just seeing what's still there. Often really surprising things come out. So I have that class. Oh, go ahead, please.
How long do you recommend for that when you say a longer amount of time? Like,
yeah, well, if you're like me, I used to do every day an hour, but that's a lot. So I needed to process a lot of things. So now I don't quite need an hour. I can process it a lot more. I can go through, I can kind of touch that place of real opening quicker for me. But I do think that you people can kind of stand there for a while, and they can kind of, okay, I'm doing this, but they're still kind of on their autopilot of functioning, and then at a certain point, the cup will overflow. You get bored or whatever, the cup will start to overflow, and then a lot of things will start to come out that you can kind of hold off for a little bit. Oh, I'm okay, and then after used to be for me 45 minutes, then their stuff is happening. So I recommend the longer times, and I wouldn't get too invested in it. Like, things will start to happen, and then you'll get excited, and then you'll want those to keep happening. And I would stay fresh with it. So they may very well change, and you're still thinking that boat is sailing, that process is happening. So I would, for me, constantly being curious, what's actually happening now, not the strategy. I started to work on my knee, or whatever, Okay, great. Thank you so much. Anything else before we go? We have possibility of a few in-person retreats this next year. So February in Ireland is happening. I'm pretty sure April in Asheville is happening. June on Whidbey Island here, and then it looks like there may be a possibility of a retreat at Daibosatsu in the fall. I've never been there, but someone's connected me with them, so maybe go out there for a few days in New York. We'll see about that. I don't know, but I'm excited about those. Okay, let us know if you have questions. This is a really sincere open group, so let people help you if you have questions. Oh, and if you need a buddy, talk to us about maybe having a buddy for the month. Okay, if you need people who've been doing this a while, you can ask them questions freely. That's really nice to have a buddy. Okay. All right. See you later. Thanks so much. So great to have you here. Okay. See you later. Okay.
Thank you.
Bye.